Right, here we go. We are live. Hey, what's going on, guys? This is Drewski with Cryptid Warfare and Conspiracies Podcast. Just want to say thank you guys for tuning in. Hope you guys had a blessed week. Yeah, man, we're just over here banging them out when it comes to podcasts. So, guys, I got an awesome guest on, but before I introduce you guys to who I have on here, he's a good dude. I'm gonna give a couple shout outs to local businesses. If you guys need any window cleaning, or if not, like you guys need any construction cleanup, get a hold of Berry Hill Window Cleaning. They're based out of here in Middle Tennessee. They also have a satellite company in Arkansas. So if you guys need your windows clean or construction cleanup, hit them up. There's also Tier 1 Restorations. One of my buddies, Brian, it's a power washing company. So you guys need anything power washed or anything like that, hit him up as well. He's on Facebook, and I'll put everything in the show notes as well. Also, too, if you guys got any going on when it comes to basically on like your animals, your land, or anything like that, anything predatory in that area, you guys want to get a hold of CW Operations and Survival. I'll have them in the show notes. And I got two more guys. Don't worry, hold on. We're almost there. Anyways, yeah, I got two of my other buddies, the Vega brothers. Their company is called Bearded Brothers Trucking. They're on Facebook, and their website is vegabrostn.com. That's vegabrostn.com. And last but not least, my buddy Chris. His business is called New City Hustler. He basically does clothes and designs. So if you guys need any T-shirts made or anything custom, hit him up. His email is newcityhustler@gmail.com, and he has an IG account as New City Hustler. I will put all that in the show notes. All right, guys, that's enough of that. Guys, I got a good guest on. This is gonna be good. So we're gonna be. Hold on to your seats, guys. Definitely gonna be a roller coaster, guys. Okay. Before I say anything, I'm gonna give like a little bit of brief bio on this guy. Okay. His name is Tim Constantine. Dude, that is a sick name. That's all I'm saying. Tim
Thank
Constantine.
you.
That's bad A. Okay, so he is a researcher. He also has a podcast. It's called the Sixth Sensory Podcast. He researches hidden history, giants, UFOs, cryptids, and etc. Guys, so it's gonna be a good time. Other than that, yeah, Tim, brother, thanks for coming on, man. Really
Thanks.
appreciate you. It's gonna be good.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here. I know that I think I mentioned this in the pre-show. If you have cryptid in the title of your show, I'm here for it, and I feel like we're going to have a blast. I can appreciate shows that talk cryptids and supernatural. I cut my teeth on those type of shows before I even started podcasting. And of course, I discuss those topics on my show as well, just because they're fun and it's a true interest. I think the more we roll into the future on this timeline that we're on, I think cryptids and the supernatural has a place in the world, especially the world we live in today. I mean, I've always kind of known that this is a spiritual realm.
Mm-hmm.
I've always known that, but in recent years, I had to kind of give into it a little bit. And when I decided to accept that, things just started making sense for me, because I believe that this is a magical place. And I think in the Bible, when it talks about principalities, for instance, my interpretation of that is that those are other realms governed by non-human entities.
Mm-hmm.
I think that they've been around for a long time. So in my opinion, according to the Bible, life in the universe is real. We are not alone. We are never alone. We aren't the only entities
100%.
here. And then on this journey, once I decided to accept some of this stuff and I wanted to know more, I got into Genesis 6, where you have the Watchers who came down to Mount Hermon, and they are said to be locked in the earth to this day. For instance, Azazel, he was said to be a watcher who taught humans various techniques and technologies. He broke the rules of the realm. God had Raphael lock him up in a hole in the desert. And there's a prophecy concerning his release and the release of the other Watchers. So I kind of have a story involving that, because I don't know, like, for good or bad, I went down that road, man. I started looking into this stuff, and it gets kind of dark, but there's always the light of the Lord, and that's been with me this whole way as well. So I do want to shout that out too, because it's not all about these dark, evil entities. I'm not here to just talk about them. I think we need to, as Christians. I think it's a conversation that we need to have more today. But I'd have a story involving all that. I might need to set it up a little bit and talk about what I've been researching. But for me, I think, well, I'll just start with it. It kind of goes back to the year 1947 for me. That's where my research is really centered around. Because in 1947, you have the Book of Enoch. It's found in a cave alongside the Dead Sea Scrolls. It's part of those scrolls. Until that point in 47, it had kind of been forgotten about. I did a little bit of research on that. I found that it was in the Bible at one point. It looks like it was in the Bible until around the 5th century, when it was like mysteriously taken out. I don't know all the ins and outs of that. I think possibly Jews who didn't feel as if it lined up with the Torah decided to take Enoch out. That'd be one explanation. But regardless, in 1947, this book is reintroduced to the world, and it's providential in the way that it begins to resurface. The first few lines of Enoch contain a prophecy that the book itself was meant to be found later. It was meant to be found for a later generation. And if people want to look that up, just look up Enoch 1:2. It says it was meant for a future group of people. So I don't feel like it's a coincidence that this book was found at almost the exact moment that Israel was established as a nation, also in 47.
Yeah.
Which in itself, that's a prophecy being fulfilled.
Yep.
The scholar who first got the manuscript, got Enoch from the cave, the first eyes on it, on the scroll, he's looking at this 2,000-year-old scroll for the first time to determine whether or not it's legitimate. That same night that he's looking at this, the UN was doing the vote that would establish Israel as a state. I don't see that as a coincidence. And I think in 1947 in general, there was a shift. I think it was, well, I've been calling it a threshold year. You could say that the 40s and World War II were the growing pains leading up to the shift, but 1947 was the actual threshold year. Because you start to see things changing in our world where we enter a new era. The CIA is created in 1947.
Mm-hmm.
It's clear that the intelligence community is now going to have a huge role in disseminating info and kind of shaping how Americans think. Air Force was established in 1947.
Mm-hmm.
Roswell. National Security Council, 1947. They are the panel that decides on war. They officially guide the military-industrial complex. Also in 1947, you have paperclip. You have all the Nazis integrating into the U.S., Russia, and Europe with their technology. Drewsty nailed it. 1947 is Roswell. That's a big one. That signifies the beginning of the modern UFO movement. So you have all this going on, and it also kind of marks this explosion of technology that would lead to where we're at today with computers and internet. A lot of that tech, too, comes from these integrating Nazis, in particular, particle colliders and the tech behind CERN and Oak Ridge comes out of Nazi Germany. There was a guy there, his name was Rolf Weiderow. He built the first particle collider for the Nazis in the 40s. He went to work at CERN after the war. That technology comes from 1947, you know, fiber optics, and the tech that would become the internet has its mysterious origins that point back to Roswell too. So that's also 1947, believe it or not. So, and I'm going to tie all this in. I know this is like a big basket of stuff, but I think I'm going to tie it all in. And I'll tag this in too. If you consider Nazis and Roswell as origins for where we are with technology, I have to at least put the question on the table, is that some of the old Watcher tech re-emerging right before the Watchers are let loose? Because that's what Enoch talks about. The book of Enoch emerges alongside of this tech. And it all goes back to 47. So we've got a pattern here. We have a year. We have a story developing around that year. And that brings me to the curse in the book of Enoch. And I think CERN might tie in as well, but I'll start with the curse. In Enoch, the curse is where God told the archangel Michael to lock up Semyaza and the Watchers in the earth for 70 generations. And after those 70 generations, they are to be set free. So I did I've been pondering on that, and I did a little experiment recently, because I was looking into CERN, and, you know, the internet was rolled out first by CERN. There was a CERN scientist named Tim Berners-Lee who first put the internet up, and that internet that we all know and use now, you know, it's inevitably connected to Google and AI. And I was thinking, like, I'll just ask this, like, CERN AI, Google intelligence flat out, when will this curse be lifted? I don't know. I just got this crazy idea to just, you know, if AI is an entity, maybe it's connected to these other entities. So I just typed in to Google, I just typed in last year of Semyaza curse. Top result comes back. It's just a phrase. It just says Semyaza and Ishtar. Okay. So I go, okay. So she's involved with this, maybe. I got it. She pops up in my research a lot lately too. So I go back to the search bar, and I said, I'm going to reword this. I'm going to make it clear what I'm asking here. So I typed in, when will Semyaza be set free? I didn't hit enter. Just typed it in. Before I could hit enter, my phone glitched. Like, I finished the question in the search bar, and before I could hit send, the phone glitched, and these search results came up on their own. And what popped up was a picture of CERN and the particle collider.
Yay!
Seriously. Hey, can I share a screen real quick? I have a picture.
Go ahead, man.
I showed, I took a screenshot of it, man. It blew me away. Well, this is StreamYard, isn't it?
Yes.
I don't know how to do that, so I might just have to explain or describe the picture. It's this picture of CERN, of the particle collider at CERN. And below that is a second picture. I didn't mean to slow us down with this picture thing. I'm sorry.
You good.
Below the picture of CERN, which that, you know, of course, that blows me away. There's a second picture of, it's like a painting. And it's of like these Viking dudes and these demons coming out of the earth. One side of the picture is fire, and there's entities coming out of the fire. The other side of the picture is water, and there's like a serpentine reptilian demonic creature, and you see all these guys like trying to fight them off. That's what comes back from this search.
Yeah.
And the second picture, you know, it was connected to an article on Ragnarok, which is Scandinavian apocalyptic folklore. It's crazy. I mean, I'll show you the pictures either later. I'll just show you the pictures later because I had to screenshot this, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, all right, this thing is like responding to me. I'm going to see, you know, what else it says. So I opened up the link attached to the CERN picture. I went back to that because it was attached to an article. So I opened up the CERN article. And as soon as I get the article pulled up, this phrase caught my attention. It said, and this is in this article, it says, as part of an experiment called NA62, researchers detected and measured an ultra-rare form of decay for a subatomic particle called a con. So 2 words popped out at me immediately. 2 words I'd never seen before. One was NA62 and the other was this con. So I'm down the rabbit hole at this point, right? So I just go ahead. I'm just like, all right, I'm just going to, I'm invested. I'm going to dive right in. So I put NA62 through Hebrew gematria. That word came back as Baalbek and edifice.
Okay.
Baalbek is a ancient city in Lebanon built with Watcher tech.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the biggest precision cut ancient technology blocks on the planet. It's like Anunnaki City. It's got Baal in its title. You know, it's right down the road from Mount Hermon. And that second word I got back was edifice. Edifice, there's the edifice in Baalbek is the ancient temple of Jupiter. It's the Phoenician temple of the sun. It's Zeus, right? It's related to Zeus because Jupiter is Zeus.
Mm-hmm.
Zeus is often considered to be Satan. In the Bible, the throne of Zeus was called the throne of Satan by John.
Yeah.
So, you see where this is going. So then I went to the other word, Khan. And in Hebrew gematria, Khan is I'm a God.
Mm.
And Mandela.
Ah.
So it's like getting weirder. Like I did a whole episode on the CERN Mandela effect connection. So I'm like, so it's like this article that I was like sent to had these 2 keywords dealing with watchers. And I also find it weird too that CERN named a particle Khan, which means I'm a god, or Mandela. And while I'm talking about CERN, I might as well throw this in too. CERN, part of CERN sits on the old temple to Apollo. There's an old temple there. It's thought by locals to be a gateway to the underworld. In Revelation 9:11, the name of the angel of the bottomless pit in Greek is Apollo, or Apollo, I should say. In Roman, it's Abaddon. You see that throughout the Bible a lot too. They're interchangeable, Apollo, Abaddon. It's basically the king of the bottomless pit that all these creatures are going to come out of. So I'm thinking like there's something to this curse. I'm thinking, let me revisit the curse and let me look at the math behind it. So when you actually look at the prophecy itself, they pretty much tell us half of the equation.
Yeah.
There's enough to go on to do the math because this will be key. I'll just go ahead and throw this in. Psalm 90:10 says, a generation is 70 years. So I use that as part of the math for this.
Okay.
As far as the curse goes, in the time of Jared, God tells the archangel Michael to bind Semyaza and the Watchers in the Valley of the Earth for 70 generations. So I'm thinking, 70 years times 70, right? So a generation is 70 years long. God places a curse for 70 generations, so 70 times 7. So I knew I'm going to be using that. The time of Jared was 2,582 BC to 3,544 BC. That means he lived somewhere between 4,600 and 5,500 years ago. If the curse was for 70 year-long generations, that's 4,900 years ago. That's right in the middle of the time of Jared. Because Jared was alive 4,900 years ago, and the place was placed 4,900 years ago, according to that math. So that's in Enoch 10:12. But that means that this
I'm just
curse
writing down notes. I'm just writing down
you're
notes.
good, man. That just means that this curse is potentially almost up. You know, if people think I'm crazy, that's fine. I'm just laying out this old Bible curse. I'm just looking into it. The only speculation that I'll add is that maybe 1947 was the countdown to the last generation before these Watchers are free.
Yeah.
You know, it's like so that maybe the book of Enoch had time to get in our hands in time for this event, like a heads up, you know, like 1947 was 77 years ago. So I don't know, was that the last 70-year increment of the curse? I don't know. That's just speculation on my end. So, but the math is crazy, right?
Yeah, it is. I was literally doing it as you were saying it, and gosh, man, you suck because you're gonna have me go down this wormhole now.
I can send you, just, you know, if you want stuff on this, I can send you whatever you need. Like, I'm sure I know that so you're familiar with some of these verses already, but like I've got it all in one file. It's like,
dude, send it.
Okay. Yeah, I can send you like just a page of that breakdown again, to where you can look even more. You can even get a more intricate look at the numbers and everything. But like, I went back and I redid it, and like that's the math. Like, curse was placed somewhere around almost 5,000 years ago. Jared was alive at that exact time, so we're right up on this curse. The only thing that might be different is I could be wrong, because a generation in the Bible, yes, in Psalms it's 70 years. In other places in the Bible, a generation is 100 years, and I've heard other people speculate too that it's 120 years.
Okay.
So, you know, I'm just throwing out possibilities here. If the curse, when that curse was placed, if it was meant for under the pretense that a generation is 100 years long, then this event would not happen in our lifetime. It will happen later.
Yeah.
But, you know.
But with the way things are going on in the world now, like just all this tech we have, just I don't know, man. With everything, like all these disasters, wars, rumors of wars, Matthew, 24, Jesus talks about it, Luke 21, all that. Everything's just lining up, dude. It really is.
I know. It's like what things are definitely lining up, and it's like some of these. But just, back to that book, that scroll being found in 1947, is that there to give us, for real, like a heads up in the sense that, get your spiritual affairs in order, because these demons are about to be released on the earth.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about the return of the little G gods. They're probably going to bring cryptid armies with them. We might be living in a time where a title like cryptid warfare begins to take on new meaning, for real.
Yeah.
Because these entities are real, man. I stand behind.
I agree. I agree 100%, man. And you're definitely on the same train I am when it comes to that. That's one of the reasons why I named my podcast the way it is, because not only these things are, physical, but there is something spiritual about it. And, I 100% agree with you, man.
Mm-hmm. Michael Heiser used to talk about going on a pagan podcast.
Yeah.
He was invited on because this guy read his stuff. The guy reached out to Heiser, and basically he was like, he realized there was a correlation between his pagan Greco-Roman texts and Deuteronomy 32. And basically the correlation is that the same gods in the Greco-Roman pagan texts exist in the Bible. Now, that's what Heiser was saying. And here's the deal. The gods of mythology, yes, they are real, in my opinion, but where we differ as Christians, we realize they have no authority over us.
Exactly.
And I think that was Heiser's point in telling that story. It's not to say the Greco-Roman pagan texts are also correct and should also be followed. It's to say that they back up some of what the Bible says, because it does center around this group of beings that have been around for thousands of, who knows how long they've been around for. And it's just, again, it's this heads up. Once you start to see this stuff, I mean, you just start seeing it everywhere. It's in all the texts, And I mentioned Ashtar or Ishtar because that was one of the weird search results I got back. It said just send y'all up Ishtar. Ishtar is also known as Aphrodite, Ashtart, Venus, and Inanna.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same entity, but different cultures gave her different names.
Mm-hmm.
And where this becomes relevant, well, I think a lot of what we're seeing in this manufactured culture war that we're in right now, this culture war of modern times, it's reminiscent of the old pagan worship of this goddess Inanna or Ishtar, because she's in the old Sumerian hymns. She was praised for being able to turn men into women and women into men. Men who served in the temple of Ishtar had to, I'll just say, embrace androgyny.
They were eunuch. Yeah.
Yes, they had to chop, and so yeah, she's back. In my opinion, in my research, she's Phoenician, so she's tied to Baalbek that I mentioned earlier. She's, I saw today. I was on my podcast Instagram page because I was just checking some messages, and I just saw one picture up that was in the feed, right? It caught my eye, and it's this picture of the Newkirks, the people who did that Hellier documentary.
Yes. It's
a picture of them next to a statue of Venus in Kentucky. And the description is things have changed since we were in Kentucky, something along those lines. And Venus is Ishtar. So they were in Ashland, Kentucky, and there's a statue of Ishtar right there on the banks of whatever river is there. And, it just got me thinking. It's like, because I watched Hellier, they were after Pan, the old ancient god Pan. They thought that Pan was behind all of that. But I think it's Ishtar. And it's just crazy to see them in a picture with that, because I think a lot of this modern day UFO cryptid stuff goes back to her. I think there's connections with her and modern ufology.
Mm-hmm.
I think she fits into this whole 1947 Roswell thing too. Just a couple little things that I've come across. Crowley dies in 1947.
Yep.
But he had a daughter in Italy named Ashtar.
Mm.
Before he died, he was channeling.
Yep.
And he got a cipher. He was dictated a cipher by an entity. That cipher is in a book called Secret Cipher of the Ufonauts. I've read the book. It gets weird. It's in Hellier some too, so there's also that connection. The idea of the secret cipher is, in this book, is if you use the cipher on key UFO cases, you're going to be able to predict the next big cryptid UFO case.
Okay.
So a big part of the book is the author applying Crowley's cipher to cases from the contactee movement that started in 1947.
So, in the book, right? Did he get that cipher from basically Crowley's drawing of Lamb, like his demon? Basically, he was getting all the information from.
It was either Lamb or Iowas, because he had two. He talked about Lamb. That was one entity that he channeled info from. The other was Iowas. I don't remember which one it was, but in the book, the author is going through this Crowley cipher, and one name in particular keeps coming out of the cipher, and it's Ashtar. Phoenician goddess of Babylon. She's everywhere. Another connection. Jack Parsons and L. Ron Hubbard. He's the guy who started Scientology. Starting in 1946 and ending in 1947, they do the Babylon working in the California desert. Many people think that they opened a portal and brought about Roswell.
Yep, and that portal they couldn't shut.
That's right, and they just left it open. That's what I hear too. And like when they did the ritual, Parsons wrote. He documented the whole thing, so I read through all of that. Parsons wrote that he saw the mystery of Babylon and that she was riding a beast, that he had this vision, and that imagery is associated with the goddess Ishtar. So there she is again, and as a result of these rituals, Parsons says that she was then loosed upon the earth in early 1947. And then a couple months later, Roswell happens. So there's that. And then there's one more. Go ahead.
Sorry. Which was, oh God, it had to be Parsons. Okay, so I know one of them died in an accident.
Parsons, they say he blew himself up.
Yeah.
Because he helped start JP something labs. He helped start NASA in a roundabout way.
Yes.
And so he was always messing around with rockets and stuff like that. And they say that he was messing around with some explosives, and that's how he died. I mean, who knows? The guy was messing around with he was tinkering around with more than just that. He was messing around with this old ancient metaphysical esoteric stuff.
Oh yeah, dabbling in things he had no freaking idea what the hell he was doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. In the same desert where him and Hubbard did the ritual, and this also happened in 1947. There's a guy named George Van Tassel.
Yep.
He worked at Lockheed for a while. He he went on to leave the aerospace business, and he decided he was going to go live out in this Mojave Desert. He went out there the same time that Parsons and Hubbard are there, but he didn't know them.
Yeah.
He just happened to be there. So he goes on to build a house there and establish like a large UFO center there in a desert. And it became the most well-known UFO meeting center of all time. And excuse me, he claimed to receive messages from an extraterrestrial interdimensional being named Ashtar. So, you know, it's all over the place, man. That contactee movement coming out of 1947, I went back and I looked through all that. It includes all kinds of encounters that that deal with Ashtar and Ashtar Command, and they actually called it the Ashtar movement at some point. It became like a prominent form of a UFO religion.
Yeah, dude. 1947 definitely jumped off the books with everything, man. Technology, just everything.
And you cut to modern day. There's a guy in the modern UFO community. His name's Chris Bledsoe. He lives in North Carolina. He's just across the mountains from us, but he talks about the source of the UFOs that he channels as being a divine feminine figure.
Okay.
So in my book, I think that points back to this too. I think she's behind some of this UFO business, you know. You know, Whitley Steber, he talks about being on board a ship. He was into hypnotic regression. And he talks about going in, I guess, to the astral or something like that. And he goes on board a craft, and he sees these shelves of grays, but they're gray shells. They're like avatars. They're just like biological robots, like they're a constructed army. So I don't know, you know, like, does that maybe fit into this and into us revisiting the days of Noah? You know, like, do these deities of old have alien armies? That's where I'm like scoping out here, you know, like, I think even John Keel later on in life, I think he got to a point too where he started to see the UFO phenomenon as a spiritual thing, and because he was making references to UFOs in correlation with angels in the Bible. So I just see those roads kind of coming together here.
Yeah.
I've never made the statement like UFOs are fallen angels. I've never made that statement, but I do think that there's like a connection there.
Now, I've also heard of a 132. Like, okay, I have heard that gray aliens and, you know, certain types of that, they are outer skin shells and stuff. They have to have like a soul or a something to that basically like harnesses it and makes it move and stuff like that. So there was a theory. I was talking to a Derek Gilbert, you know, of course, you know. Yeah. I was talking to him about this in the past, and Gary Wayne as well. I actually had Gary Wayne on the podcast too. So the souls of the Nephilim, right? Of course, you know, they're over here floating around and whatnot, but a lot of them, a theory is that they use them to inhabit, you know, like these skin suits of the gray aliens and stuff like that. I don't know, just a theory.
Yeah, Derek Gilbert does some pretty good work, man, when it comes to Watchers and Mount Hermon and that whole region of the Middle East. And of course, Gary Wayne does too. Have you had Gilbert on?
I've had, twice.
Oh, cool.
I had him and his wife on sharing.
Yeah, cool, man.
Good people, man.
Yeah, I've talked to him actually. I need to get him on. I know I do follow his work. And I mentioned CERN, so I might bring that back into this. I think it's worth mentioning that someone over there at CERN is treating that technology like a giant quantum Ouija board. They're putting questions into another dimension to see what answers come back. And I see that as like science becoming like the seance again, like back in the days of alchemy and stuff. And they're with CERN though, they're just so anti-God that they keep it hush hush what they're really doing, and they act like nothing spiritual's going on. They like to hide behind their Darwinian science, but
yeah, but you also see though, like whenever like they have these like pre-production programs, and like when they start up CERN, right? You see the whole, like they have people, they're dancing, they're doing all these rituals and all that before they start it, and not only that, like you look at the CERN logo, 666. I mean, come on, man. You know what I'm saying? And
no,
they ain't fooling nobody. They ain't fooling nobody, in my opinion.
No, the celebration ritual ceremony stuff is blatant. The Shiva thing is blatant. You know, yeah, I've seen that 666 in the logo too. I thought that as well. CERN's just weird, man. It's like, I wonder sometimes if I'm sorry.
You good, man?
Yeah. That's what happens when you start talking about this stuff, man.
You good, man? Oh, you good? Go ahead.
There's I was going to talk about Ghostbusters because I was thinking about that scene in Ghostbusters where I'm thinking about the 1984 movie.
The good one.
Yeah, where there's like an explosion at their New York headquarters, and they all run outside, and like the roof blows out, and this stream of spirits shoots into the air, and like New York is then invaded by entities. It's like, man. And I remember just the visuals of that, seeing that big stream of like spirits shooting up over the skyline. And it's like, seriously, I wonder if that's how it's going to be. It's like such a prophetic scene.
It is, yeah.
You know, because between Oak Ridge and CERN, that could potentially happen.
Yeah.
You know, they're doing similar CERN-like experiments here in Tennessee. I mean,
yeah.
That's one of the things that I found, like looking into Oak Ridge, they just come out and say it in some of these articles. There's one article, it's called, NBC put it out. It's called Scientists Are Searching for a Mirror Universe.
Yeah.
And it goes into how Oak Ridge is, of course, that's in Eastern Tennessee over here. There's a physicist there named Leah Broussard. And she's talks about how she's trying to open a portal to a parallel universe.
Mm-hmm. What's funny is you talk about portals and stuff, you know, like at CERN and that Hydro Collider and all that, and then over at Oak Ridge, I was just recently on the Confessionals podcast with Tony Merkel, and off camera, him and I were just chit chatting and stuff, and I guess one of his neighbors works at Oak Ridge as like a security like tech guy, right? Mm-hmm. So what his job is, this guy's like prior military and stuff too. So what his job is, he is literally a sniper that's up on the third deck, basically with the 50 cal, shooting anything that comes out of the portal that's hostile. Him and a team of other guys. So Tony was like, "Wait, what? What'd you say?" Well, during that time though, there was like his birthday party, he said, and the guy was. I guess he said the guy had like a couple beers on him and whatnot, so Tony didn't really think anything of it. He's like, whatever. So the next week, he saw him again. He's like, hey, man, quick question. You mentioned this and you said this. I don't know if you really was just joking. He's like, no. I was actually being serious. That's actually what I do. And he's like, holy crap. Okay. I just thought that was really interesting.
It is. I found some similar stories regarding CERN over in Switzerland too. It's like there's some people who I found online who have kind of been outspoken about what goes on there. Of course, they're like shut down and demonetized, but I was able to find them anyway. One's like a scientist that went to a university. She's high up in the scientific community, and she talked about how that they're opening portals and entities are coming out and entities are leaving things. They'll show up and they'll leave, but they'll leave something behind. All this stuff, and like I got to the point where I was thinking, okay, this ties in with your Tony Merkel story. It's like it seems like the people who are working at these places are the people who are talking about this. You know, this is supposed to be an internet rumor. Oh, CERN is entities, portals. It's coming from people who work there.
Yeah.
And I mean, like there's that, like this, that NBC article that I was talking about, like the physicist there says they're looking into a mirror universe that has mirror atoms, rocks, planets, mirror stars. And she actually says it could form an entire shadow world. That's a direct quote.
Mm-hmm.
She says it's a shadow. It could be a shadow world as real as our own, but almost completely like cut off from us.
Yeah.
And that's not internet rumor. That's like from the physicist at Oak Ridge.
Yeah.
I don't doubt.
Go ahead.
I just gonna say I don't doubt Tony Merkel's story for a second.
Yeah, I don't either, man. It almost kind of reminds you of like what is it, Stranger Things? Where you have like the opposite world. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just man.
Yeah, the upside down, like
Uh-huh.
the Demigorgon or whatever that's called.
Yeah, Demigorgon or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the demiurge, like the old ancient demiurge demon thing. There's all kinds of parallels like that, man. It's just like Stranger Things.
Yeah. Yeah, dude, that's a trip, man.
They based that was originally to be called Montauk. Stranger Things was supposed to be called Montauk. And I'm not going to go into all of it, but like there's a high probability that they had a particle collider there at Montauk for a while, because there's one at Brookhaven, and it's like it's on Long Island as well. So it's like I think they took an older one and moved it over to Brookhaven, because that Montauk point, that was like a facility that like Nazis were. It goes back to these Nazis that were integrating over here in 1947. A lot of them got put in these like black projects, and Montauk was one of them.
Yeah.
But as far as Tennessee goes, man, yeah, and I've said it before on my show. It's like, is Oak Ridge and greater East Tennessee the next Stranger Things? Right? Because it's like every time I turn around, I'm hearing something weird come out of there, man.
Oh yeah, for sure, man. And what's funny too is, besides the podcast, I got a cryptid research hunting team, right? So we go out, we investigate, and we also help people that are getting basically bluffed and just getting terrorized by certain creatures, right? So, but the majority of everything we get, emails and stuff, is in that Oak Ridge area.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just.
Oh man, I want to talk to you about that at some point. Later on, I'm very interested in like some of the stuff that you've come across out there.
Yeah, man.
I think that Oak Ridge is like, just like, so like CERN sits on that old temple of Apollo, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think Oak Ridge is sitting on an ancient site as well. You can look this up. This is real. It's called the Ice House site. It's one of the oldest places on Earth.
What's it called again?
Ice House, like the beer.
Ice House site. Okay.
Yeah. It's one of the it's as old as Göbekli Tepe, they say. It's in Tennessee. It's at the bottom of Tellico Lake right now, because they put a dam in and they flooded this area. But it's not far at all from Oak Ridge. I think that they probably use that dam as a power source for that facility. And, it's interesting because whoever was living at this site, well, let me say this. I think there are many groups of people that were living at this site in Oak Ridge area. Ancient people, right? Ancient advanced people, and then I think the Native Americans went and built on top of those ruins as well. But at one point, some of the ancient people who were there, we know they were eating deer and they were cremating their dead, but we also know that they were somehow getting frozen chunks of river out of the river, and they were putting the frozen chunks in pits in the ground as a way to store food. That's why they call it the ice house. The ice house side, because they figured out a way to do that so that the ice underground like stayed frozen for long periods of time. It was like brilliant, like ancient knowledge stuff. And like after that group, the Cherokee move in. They had a city. This is at the bottom of Tellico Lake as well. They have a Cherokee City there called Citico. Okay. It's spelled Citico. It looks like it reads Citico, but it's like Cetico or something like that. It's been submerged under the lake since 1979 when they put the dam in. So, and then there's another prehistoric site down there alongside of all this. It's called Tukoya. And it's there's mounds and maybe even pyramids associated with it. All at the bottom of this lake. There was a whole network of Cherokee cities down along that Tennessee River. The government destroyed all that and kept it out of the history books because of manifest destiny. They needed the natives to look like savages, so they could justify killing them off and taking their land. But in reality, these weren't natives. They were intelligent, civilized people who had paved streets, buildings, pyramids, ancient technology. And it's all right there next to Oak Ridge.
That's a trip, dude.
People can type in Tellico Lake, ancient city. Just put that into Google. You'll see some of this pop up. This land used to be, sci-fi fantasy novel, man. I think we're in the thick of it. I'm from North Carolina, but I've learned a lot about Tennessee since I've been out here, man. And like when it comes to cryptids and ancient peoples and just Bigfoot, everything, we're in a global hotspot for that stuff. I've got stacks of papers that I need to go through dealing with the mass grave of the Tennessee Little People. Have you heard about that?
I've heard of the Tennessee Little People. I've never really dove into that.
Yeah, I haven't dove into it yet because I haven't had time, but like it's fascinating. They found all these graves and like they found little skeletons. Yeah. And it's well documented.
Trip. It was funny because I was kind of looking that up, but who introduced me to that? Oh my gosh, he was. I gotta find him real quick. He was probably like my first year. I was actually doing like my podcast. I just interviewed him because he was a big advocate for Bigfoot and all that. And his name is because this guy's got a doctorate. He worked over at Yale. He's up in California, but he's like a mushroom picker. But he was really into like little people, and he Greg Walters. That's his name, Greg Walters. So he was.
Is he around?
Yes, he is. As a matter of fact, I'll try to definitely connect you with him. But yeah, I was gonna have him on my podcast, but I just keep getting dimed up with stuff. But other than that, he is a whiz when it comes to little people in Tennessee because he brought that up for a little bit. I was like, oh my gosh,
that's cool, man. I just wrote his name down. I'd love to talk with him. You know what? I might actually have some of his work because I've got a stack of papers on these little people
I actually have his phone number. I will give it to you after the show. But yeah,
cool. Thanks, man. That's awesome.
Definitely hit him up, man.
Yeah, so like I say, I'm from North Carolina. And I used to live in an area. I used to live basically at the base of Pilot Mountain, North Carolina. it's like a big stone knob at the top of this mountain. It's a really bizarre looking, piece of nature, I guess. It's like, but the legend there has to do with little people as well. And so there's just legends of little people interwoven with the history of this mountain. And then I got out here and I realized that I hit the jackpot with little people, because they found thousands of bodies out here of these things. It's just all kinds of, I think, we're talking about small creatures, but I think Bigfoot goes hand in hand with this region too, man. I've heard some crazy Bigfoot stuff out of Tennessee, East Tennessee.
Yeah. Yep. Tennessee wild man, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's Tennessee wild man is actually like a Bigfoot that multiple people have seen, right? It's just the name of a cryptid, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's all it is. They based it off of because I guess they had like a train that came through that was a part of a circus, and that train basically crashed, and certain animals got out. Well, one of them was that, and then just over the years, it's just been having hikers and people who are living out there have been seeing this thing. Has been pretty aggressive. Has dealt with a lot of people going missing, stuff like that. So not only that, like down here in the South, because I'm actually originally from Colorado. I'm out there from the Midwest. So basically, on like the Sasquatch and the Bigfoots out there in the West Coast, Northwest, stuff like that, Midwest, they're bigger, right?
Mm-hmm.
And down here in the South, they're smaller, but they're more aggressive, way more aggressive. But yeah, anyways, sorry to throw that out there.
There's all kinds of weird stuff here in the American South. I mean, I came across a Native American Slender Man about a year ago. I did an episode on that. It's wild. I mean, it's basically, I found these Native American accounts from the 1800s of this Slender Man-like entity. They called it Nalusophilia.
Okay.
And it reminded me of Slender Man because there were similarities, like with the Nalusophilia, it lives like deep in the forest. And it's kind of an isolated shadow man, like a tall, lanky shadow man. And it's said to stalk the villagers, like Slender Man was stalking these kids in Wisconsin or whatever. And then it's said to like drag people from the tree line into the woods. But it is a tall, black, lanky demon that it's called Nalusophilia, and it's a lot of the stories are from here.
That's a trip, dude.
Yeah, these used to be. That's my thing. That's why, like, the title of your show and just where you're at, I just feel like it's peanut butter and jelly.
Yeah.
I think that you're just in a cryptid hub, man. I think that's where we are. I mean, Tennessee, I'm in Nashville. Nashville's been built up a lot, but this used to be an ancient civilization of some sort. I've got these old articles that these tunnels were blown open during the Civil War. And after the Civil War, they let some of these journalists come in. I found one of these articles in the AG Intelligencer. I think that was the name of the old newspaper. And this journalist comes in and he enters the mouth of this ancient tunnel that extends for a mile underneath Nashville. He's talking about sarcophaguses in there, and like mummies and like huge Eastern style vases.
Yeah.
And like knives with like engravings on them, like an unknown language. And like the tunnel itself extends all the way up to beneath Fort Negley, which
Okay.
is a star fort. These star forts over here in the country, they were built before America was established in the 1700s. The star forts go back to an earlier age.
Yeah.
And this tunnel, it connects to a star fort. So, who knows how long people were living here alongside of these little people and everything else. Ancient cities, little people, giants, Sasquatch, dragons.
Yeah.
Found
Oh,
all
dude.
kinds of stuff from dragons.
Speaking of freaking dragons, right? Okay, so hold on. Okay, so I got like me and the guys got called out along with Jessica Jones at Cryptid Hunters. We went out to this spot in Alabama where a couple of my operators are at right now as we speak to go. They're actually on an investigation right now. I couldn't make it because I'm going on a family vacation tomorrow. So, but this area that we went to, we actually got called out because there were a lot of like Bigfoot and like a lot of like dogman activity out there, right? So we get out, we get all our gear off, we start hiking about 6 miles in. We run into this guy. He used to be out there in California as like a paleontologist, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but he's retired and all that, and he's just on the ground off the trail a little bit with all his gear, and he's just got his brush and he's just moving all this dust, taking this rock away, all that. And we're like, what the hell's going on with this dude? And he's like, hey, you guys know there's a petrified dragon over here, right? We're like, what? Come on, man.
What?
So he was explaining to us, yeah. He was explaining to us and everything, and he showed us like this scale, I guess, that was petrified. And I was like, I don't see it. So we go do our thing. As we come back the next day, we're hiking back, right? We turn on the same trail, and it looks like at this end of a tail, and you just almost kind of curvature goes like that, and then it spines up, and then it goes onto like this rock face, and this rock face drops, and both sides go out like wings.
Oh my god!
And I'm like, holy crap, dude! We literally walks next to this, and I go, you can't see it coming in, but as you're coming back, you start to see how the formation is. Like, this is a trip. So yeah, we seen him up there just doing his thing, and
he's like this guy's legitimately a paleontologist who's studying it.
Yes, so he goes back as much as he can. He lives in the Alabama area now.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll try to have Jessica send me over his information, and then I'll kick it over to you, and then you can talk to him if you want, man. But yeah, he just goes there like anytime he gets, and he goes there and he clears out all the brush, and he basically just like dissects it, like little by little.
That's insane, man. We might need to keep eyes on him, man. If this word gets out, Smithsonian is gonna swoop in there and disappear that thing.
Right? I know, right?
That's wild, man. This guy. So he believes that it's prehistoric. It's a prehistoric creature.
Well, he calls it a dragon, and he said, yeah, this whole thing, yeah, that's what he thinks, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
that reminds me of a story. One of my dad's friends used to tell us. My dad has a friend who is a missionary in Alaska.
Okay.
Real just Indiana Jones type, Hemingway type hunter, out in the woods. Just he used to fly his plane from Alaska to North Carolina, his Cessna. And funny enough, he took me up above that Pilot Mountain once in his plane.
Yeah.
But he had a story about he was looking for a new hunting spot out in the middle of nowhere, Alaska. He was because there's places over there that people don't go and people haven't been for who knows how long, if ever, right?
Yeah.
So he's like scouting out this new hunting territory. He's trying to find a new honey pot. So he's way out there and he's looking for a place to land his plane. So he finds a clearing on top of like a hill. So he lands his plane out there And he says when he steps out of the plane, he steps out onto weird rocks.
Okay.
He goes around to the back end of this hill, and he discovers like a cave down there. And then he comes back and he's looking around, and like he realizes that those aren't rocks, they're bone.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So he had landed his plane on an old dinosaur burial ground, is what he said. Because they went in after that. A boneyard. Then they went in after that. People, paleontologists and scientists came out there and checked it out, and they confirmed that it was like prehistoric creatures there. And they even found in that cave, they found it was in a chunk of ice, but they found a preserved dinosaur in there.
Oh, wow.
No, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. It was like it was a mammoth, is what they found a mammoth, but the bones were dinosaur bones. So yeah. It's been a while since I've heard the story, but like, this stuff's out there. And when it comes to dragons, I think, have you ever heard of a book called Bell and the Dragon?
Never have.
It was in the Bible. From what I can tell, it was in the Bible at one point. It was
Bell and the Dragon.
Bell and the Dragon. It was either its own book, or it was an extension to the book of Daniel, because it has to do with Daniel. It's like, I think at one point it was either the last 2 chapters of Daniel, or it was just its own little book that broke off from Daniel, because it talks about this story where Daniel goes in, and this king in the region over there had a pet dragon.
Okay.
I read it, man. It's crazy. It was from what I could tell, it was really in the Bible. It's just this wild thing that nobody ever talks about. It's like Enoch, man. It's like, and I don't want to really go down that road of like why things were taken out, or if they should have been taken out. Like, I don't want to like tick people off, because I don't have all the answers with that. Like, I don't know why some of these books aren't in there anymore. I know that the books that are in there, you should read them.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that, like, when it comes to Enoch, I know that there's other places, other authors of books in the Bible who, in the Bible, quote Enoch. They use it as source material. Mm-hmm. So I think that Enoch is a good book to read. I don't think it's like woo-woo, esoteric, antichrist, I don't think it's any of that stuff. I think it was really in there. And I think it might be like this Bell and the Dragon book, where it's like some of the stuff, closer you get to where we are in history, the less and less people were believing in fallen angels, dragons, watchers, and all that stuff. I think that a sect of Christians thought it would probably be better to take some of that more fantasy type stuff out to make the Bible more clear cut and dry with what the main message is.
Yeah.
That's just what I've gathered, right? I don't know that that's the case, but I could see it kind of going that way, where they pulled out some of these books because, like, well, people aren't going to take this seriously if there's a dragon in here. But it's cool, man. It's called Bell and the Dragon. And
I'm gonna check that out.
Yeah, check it out. If you read the last chapter in Daniel, and then you go and read Bell and the Dragon, it fits perfectly. It's crazy, man. Okay. And in the Masoretic text, there's a verse in Isaiah chapter 34 that talks about the habitation of dragons.
So what was it again? Isaiah what?
Isaiah 34. I'll have to get you the actual verse. I don't remember the verse, but I know it's in Isaiah 34. Okay. It talks about the habitation of dragons. Now, in your Bible, it's probably going to say habitation of jackals. because it
Well,
got changed to that.
I have I have a Geneva Bible. I got an
Oh,
old school King James Bible. I've got like 10 different variations of Bibles. So
yeah.
yeah, I'm gonna compare them and see what's up.
Yeah. You know, with that, it's like in the Masoretic, it does say dragons. So somebody's interpretation at one time was like, this is talking about dragons for real. And you know, I don't know if people have read Job 41 lately, but that's definitely a dragon.
Yeah.
You know, if you just start with verse 9 of Job 41, that is straight up a dragon. It's talking about this sea serpent that can heat up the waters. And like it talks about flames and all that too. Like, so I think the dragons were in there or still are in there. When it comes to Job 41, that's a dragon. And I wish I would have had my Bible right here next to me, and I don't.
Man,
You know,
good
but
stuff.
yeah, even when I first watched Lord of the Rings as a kid, I got the deep sense that somehow that's how the world once was.
Yeah, I do
Like
too, man.
like the days of Noah, you know, and I'm fascinated with it because if we're to believe this book, that's coming back.
Hmm.
These ancient spirits are locked in the earth according to these old texts and according to the Bible. You know, there's that passage in Leviticus 16, I think verse 6 through 10. It talks about that in sea I mentioned earlier, Azazel. The Israelites are in the desert. If you read all of Leviticus, the sense that I got was that they're on the move. You know, God will have them stay in one place for a little while, and then they'll pick up and move. I feel like they're passing through a certain remote region of the desert in Leviticus 16, and you see where God has them leave a goat for Azazel. Azazel's that fallen angel from Enoch. He's in the Bible as well, of course, but he was responsible for introducing humans to forbidden knowledge and technologies.
Yep. Yep. The seven sacred sciences. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. But they're, you know, Israelites are passing through the desert, and a goat is to be sent out to this certain part of this wilderness for Azazel. To me, that's weird, man. It's like, why would God have them leave a sacrifice almost to this? And I don't have the answer for that, but I do.
The goat. Yeah, I'm looking at. Yeah, yeah. The goats will carry itself to their sin to a remote place. That's yeah. And the men shall
So,
release it in the wilderness. Yeah.
mhm. Does your version say Azazel
Well,
with a capital A?
yes, it does.
Yeah. That's why I don't think that was a Jewish ritual or a play or not a place, but some will say that there's some. It's called Yom Kippur or something like that. It's an old Jewish ritual, but they're saying Azazel with a capital A like it's a name of a person
Yeah, of a
or a
deity or
thing.
something. Yeah.
Yeah, but you know
Hmm.
what? This stuff. Not everybody's at this part of their journey where I guess they're finding this stuff interesting. I kind of am, you know, because when I got to a point where I accepted this as a spiritual journey, things just started working out for me just across the boards. You know, things just started making sense. When I first read Enoch, things just started making sense for me.
Not only that too, Enoch kind of like definitely fills in the gaps of Genesis 6.
Hmm.
You know, it does, and you know, like a lot of these books do. But yeah, it definitely fills in the gaps on some of these books that just have been just cut short, and you're like, what the okay, what what
Yeah,
happened in between then? You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
yeah, exactly. I'm gonna see. I'm gonna see if I can show you this picture real quick. Let's see. There we go. Did you get that?
Oh yeah, that's stage. Yep, got it.
So that's the pic. I didn't want to slow us down earlier in the middle of that story, so I just, I didn't have us pull this up. But like when I typed in that stuff into Google, this is the result. When I typed in, when will Semyaza be set free? This is where my phone glitched, and this is what came up. It's that picture of CERN, and then it's this picture of this Ragnarok-like thing. How crazy is that, dude?
That's a trip, man. Yep, yeah, I definitely see what you're saying. They're coming out of that fire, and then you get that serpent coming out of that water.
Yeah.
They're battling it.
That's the picture.
Mm-hmm.
You've got a demon right there in the middle.
Yep.
And then over to the left, there's that serpentine, that water dragon, which if you go back to like creation myths, there's the myth of Tiamat, this chaos water dragon.
It's kind of like a Leviathan.
Yeah, that's also in. That's funny enough. That's also in Job. There's the story of that. There's the depiction of that dragon in Job, and then there's also a depiction of Leviathan in that same. I don't know if it's the same chapter, but they're right next to each other in the book of Job. Tiamat. It kind of goes back to the creation of the. Tiamat's like an ancient esoteric creation myth that you see in like the Babylonian and the Sumerian texts. But when you look at the creation story across a lot of these myths, what you see is that God, created the earth. Before God created the earth, there was water. And there was chaos. Almost like a spirit in the water itself was the spirit of chaos in it. And in some of the myths, they talk about in the waters there being dragons, and that the spirit could inhabit the dragons, and it became known as the chaos dragon. So God created the earth out of chaos. He brought order to chaos. And that's kind of what I see in this picture. It's like you have represented the beginning and the end here, because in the end, we're supposed to, everything's going to be destroyed with fire, right?
Yep.
So it's like this, I don't know if I'm making any sense, but
I hear you are, man.
This picture just kind of looks like some of the stuff that I've dove deep into concerning like the beginnings of the earth. And of course, I subscribe to Genesis and all that, but there's ancient texts out there that add more to that story. That's in like maybe an esoteric light. And I know you got to be careful of that stuff, but anyways, let's see if I can figure out how to. There we go. I don't use StreamYard, so it's like it took me a minute to figure out how to do the picture thing.
You got it, bro. You got it.
Yeah. But like, I think that we're spirit and we're coded to be in this body for a short time. And I think that cryptids are probably, there might be a similarity there. Like cryptids are old spirits in a body as well. Like even like Bigfoot, it's like, I think the main difference between a Bigfoot and a cougar or a gorilla or something else in the animal world is that there seems to be a rule book. Like they're not supposed to mingle with us for some reason. That seems like a spiritual boundary to me. And I could say the same, I suppose, for UFOs. You know, maybe to like reiterate something I said earlier, you know, the Bible tells us that the watchers and the rulers of the principalities of the heavens were there before we showed up. And when I read that all that says to me is that we're definitely not alone in the universe. I think people, it might be a good idea to go ahead and figure out where not you, but where people stand with aliens, you know, before we get deceived by the wrong narrative. Now might be a good time to think about this stuff and just find out where you stand. I think it would be foolish to think that those who govern the principalities of the cosmos don't have armies. You know, just like the kings and princes of earth had armies, the princes of the sky have armies as well. And they have flying chariots. They have flying devices. You know, Alberino talks about this all the time. And it's difficult for us to know who's good and who's bad. So we probably shouldn't trust any of them, right?
Yeah.
Probably when it comes to UFOs, like I'd say, trust no one when it comes to UFOs. Don't even trust me, but like follow Deuteronomy 4:19. Because that says, you know, when you look to the heavens, you see the sun, the moon, and the stars, and the host of heaven. Do not bow to them and do not serve them.
Yeah. And not only that, how it says in scripture too, you know, test the spirits as well. Test them.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I see that host of heaven from Deuteronomy 4:19 as other entities.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
Because no matter what, I don't see the government telling people that fallen angels are flying around fleets of UFOs.
No, heck no. It'd be chaos.
Yeah, they're going to tell us. They're never going to tell us that. Like, I don't know that all of the UFOs are associated with fallen angels. I mean, I think maybe there's. I'm gonna go off in crazy land here, I guess, at this point. But I think that there might be Earth maintenance beings that just serve a purpose. Like, I don't know, like a fairy or a Bigfoot would. Like if Bigfoot's like the guardian of the woods, maybe there's some of these entities are guardians of the air and they're here for a purpose. They're doing something like they're like upholding the scaffolding of the atmosphere or something like that. So I don't know that they're all bad, but we don't know. We haven't been given the keys to that knowledge yet.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. There's a lot of different factions of these things, and like you said, we don't know which one's good, which one's bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, man, you don't know who the bad guy is until they're bad.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. They blew me away with that dragon story, man.
Yeah. I'll definitely get you connected with Jessica for sure, and she could talk more about it because, like I said, we're in the middle of just putting our gear up and stuff and going hiking, and you know, this guy was talking to her more than he was with me, so I was like, come on, let's get going, you know, and then she got all the intel from this guy, and then we were walking on our way back. She was pointing out, see, here's where it starts. I'm like, holy crap, this guy wasn't lying. This guy wasn't off his cuckoo for Cocoa Puff. This literally looks legit. So
I love stories like that. I love when people find stuff like that. So you're like, out. There's just there's just magic in your backyard.
Yeah,
you just gotta find it.
There's a lot of things we walk on, we walk over. We have no idea what the frick, what's going on.
Yeah,
we have no idea like what land our house is built on. You know, what it was thousands and thousands of years ago.
Yeah. And it's hard to find that information too. I mean,
Oh yeah.
when I was 10 to when I was about 15, we lived in a house that was haunted.
Yeah.
Like straight up poltergeist activity. And like that's another story for another time. But I did go back and try to find out what was on the land before our house was there. And it was just nothing, man. It was just nearly impossible to find out anything about that land.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's just a lot of stuff. It's like this Tellico Lake thing.
Yeah.
It's just buried, or in that case, it's flooded. Just all this ancient history underneath water. But I was going to ask you too. Like, do you think that there's been an uptick in cryptid sightings?
I have, for sure. There has, because business is booming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There has, yeah, and not only that too, like that, and with like the technology like we have now, so we're able to capture more. People are able to, go on their cell phones and put in like example. We have like different projects, like the North American Dogman Project, the BFRO, MUFON, the International Dogman Projects. It's instead of just the feds dealing with it, you have private sectors that are dealing with them too. So people are able to, email stories in, or or TikTok, who knows, but yeah, definitely has been an uptick for sure.
Mm-hmm.
The closer and closer we get, to Jesus' coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking too when I was looking into all this stuff surrounding 1947 and just kind of extending up into where we are now. It does seem like there's been a very, very clear jump in all this phenomenon, all this supernatural activity. I mean, like you mentioned, like MUFON and BFRO, and I found a site, or I looked into a site recently called New Fork.
Okay.
It's like MUFON, similar. Yeah, New Fork. NUFORC, I think it stands for something, but they have all these sightings in there, recent sightings. If you just go to like Tennessee,
yeah,
you can see and read people's accounts of UFOs and other strange things that are happening like right now almost.
Yeah.
Like there's always a current sighting up there and you can even, it tells you like the town. There's a lot of stuff up there from that Oak Ridge region for sure.
Yeah.
There's like there's even Nashville sightings happening, last week and last month. They're all kind of current.
So okay, so is this like an app, or is this online?
No, you could just go to New Fork. It's just online.
Gotcha. I'm gonna.
I don't know if they have an app, but I went on there and I found a lot of like UFO accounts that people had just had, and a lot of it is.
Have you? Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say a lot of it's around these regions that we're talking about. There's stuff from Murfreesboro. There's stuff from.
Okay. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to check that out for sure. I'm gonna try to link you up with the dude named Tony Rodriguez. You heard of him?
No.
Okay, so he was on the professionals like years ago, but I had him on my podcast like my first year. He did like a 20 and back. You ever heard of that?
I have.
Basically,
but
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead. I know what it is, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So basically, yeah. So in a nutshell, he got abducted. His subconscious got abducted or something by gray aliens, and then he was up there for 20 years, and then he came right back to his 8-year-old self, and then his mind was just blown. He had to go to therapy, all this stuff, and then all this stuff just came back to him. But I just thought it was pretty interesting, though. But anyways, yeah.
Yeah, there's a couple of those people who've come out with that 20 and back program. That stuff goes deep, man. That stuff, that's one element of this phenomena. That and like the abduction scenarios. Sometimes I don't go there.
Yeah. You ever heard of CE4 project?
That's Greer's thing. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah, that's, if people want to do that, that's fine. It's not for me. I don't.
I hear you.
What do you think about that?
Well, I don't know if we're talking about the same, but this guy, sure it's the CE4 project. But this guy, I'm talking about, he's a Christian.
Mm-hmm.
He worked for MUFON, but he quit because he was seeing like this pattern, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the pattern was certain people he would do investigations for, he would journal, talk to them and stuff, but certain people who would be getting abducted, but all of a sudden they would say, in Jesus' name, get out of my house. In Jesus' name, go away, and those entities would just leave, right?
Yeah.
So he was writing down all that data, and he brought it to MUFON, and MUFON's like, you can write this certain thing down, but leave this part out because it's bad for business. And so after that, he just left. So I'm pretty sure I hope I'm getting it right, but it's something E4 project. Yeah, I could be wrong, but I'll try to look that up. But anyways,
I think last time I looked into it, I think I found that there were 17 clandestine agencies in the States now. And that's, in addition to like CIA and FBI.
Yeah.
NSA, there's, 15 others. So it's a structure that allows them to compartmentalize.
Mm-hmm.
That type of a setup allows for a lot of hidden information to stay hidden. It's like researchers don't know where to look. It's all behind, it's all hush hush. It's behind the curtain information. They compartmentalize things, and when they need something that's in danger of maybe being known, when they need that to stay secret, they can just move it over to another department.
Yeah.
And what they do is they have people in charge of these departments who are lifers, government lifers, people who have been in government for 40 years, 40 plus years, who have proven that they can keep their mouth shut. They like people who can work within the structured environment, like the military, or like, what you have to do to be a politician or in the military. You have to kind of adhere to certain rules, and you kind of have to not talk back to your superiors. You kind of have to play the game. You have to, you have to be able to play ball with the government, essentially.
Yeah. You have to be like a yes man.
What's that?
Said, yeah, you have to, all in all, you have to be like a yes man.
Yes man, yeah. I mean, that's really what it boils down to. So that's how in my research, that's how a lot of this stuff stays under wraps. They've got 40-year plus veterans, I should say, over these departments. People who can keep secrets.
Yeah.
And of course, stuff leaks occasionally, but
yeah. And not only that too, like, to me, like the longer you've been there, the more and more you have invested into that certain, three-letter alphabet agency, the more and more risk you are not going to take on leaking stuff, because you have so much invested in that pension, family, everything. They can just pull the rug out from under you, and all that's down the freaking tube. They can make you look like a piece of crap, in the public. They can Sky's the limit.
Absolutely.
So.
That all plays a factor in this too. That's all part of the deal. You know, if you want your reputation to stay, if you want to be an upstanding member of whatever agency you work for, and you don't want your life, your family, your kids, you don't want all that to be threatened, you just keep your mouth shut, and you just, you know, you don't become a whistleblower. But I've learned a lot by studying whistleblowers.
Yeah.
And that compartmentalization thing is definitely something that I picked up on by looking really deep into whistleblower accounts.
Yeah. It kind of reminds me of oh God, what the heck was his name? Bob Lazar.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? He was on the Rogan podcast, but he was talking about how he worked in certain sections of Area 51 and then Area 52 and all that. But it's almost like you said, they totally compartmentalize everything, and you only know what they want you to know, and the guy next to you only knows what he knows, but you guys don't talk about it. And it's almost like the mushroom effect, right? They feed you crap, keep you in the dark, and you guys do fine.
Yeah. Oh man, I like Lazar's story personally. I'm pretty much like a believer in his story.
Yeah,
I don't believe all these guys, but I like Lazar. I mean, you know, there's that documentary that Jeremy Corbell put out, that Area 51, Bob Lazar and Flying Saucers.
Mm-hmm.
I love that documentary because it's just, you get to kind of see who Bob Lazar is. And also Corbell lays out, because Lazar came out with all this back in the 80s.
Yeah, in the 80s. Came on back in the 80s.
Yeah, so like some of the stuff he talked about over time has been proven correct.
Uh-huh. Yep.
Element 115.
Yeah.
And also another thing that Lazar talked about was to get into, I think it was S4, the S4 facility. On his way in, they had some sort of a palm reading device.
Yeah.
That had technology at the time that people were like, that doesn't exist. He came up with that. He watched some movies. That's a sci-fi thing. There's no way that exists. And you know,
now they got it.
Now they got it. And I think somebody even recently had like dug up an old, you know, chunk of this equipment. Like somebody actually found it.
Yeah.
Like, this old like palm reading device. You know, he stuck by his story. One of the other things interesting with Lazar, I think, is that he talked about how they had, I think, seven or eight saucers or UFOs in this warehouse, and he said one of them they got from an old archaeological dig.
Yeah,
and they didn't know how old it was. I mean, that blows minds, right? That's crazy.
Yeah, that was nuts. That was nuts, man.
You know, this technology's been around for a long time. It goes back to, you know, I think it goes back to this Watcher tech personally.
Oh, 100%, dude. Yeah, for sure, man. And then, you know, the whole thing with Atlantis, Egypt, all that stuff, man. We call ourselves civilized now. I'm sorry, man. We cannot build the stuff they built back then. Like all that. We just can't. For right now, we just can't.
Yeah, no, there's been a clear decline in knowledge, human capability, human knowledge. There's been a huge decline over time. That's what we're starting to see now. Like if you follow Graham Hancock or any of these guys who are in the alternative the forbidden archaeological movement, whatever you want to call it, when you take a close look at this stuff, there has been a decline in what we know how to do. It's like the pyramids are super old and they're still there. Our buildings downtown today would not last that long.
Yep.
Not nearly as long. They be gone very quickly in the scope of time. And it goes back to that Tellico Lake thing too. It's like those people who were living in this area of Tennessee, who kind of date back to Göbekli Temple, they were a more advanced version of humans. I think I don't know that they were necessarily like smarter than us. They just had better knowledge than we do. They ate better foods. Their whole lifestyle was different. Everything about what they did is an upgrade compared to modern life.
Yeah, I agree. Only that they didn't have any things that distracted them like we do now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like you said, like the more and more as we get into this, the more and more I think we're just dumber.
Mm-hmm.
That's yeah.
We don't have access to the knowledge, and I don't know. We are dumber, but are we incapable of thinking the way ancient man thought? I don't necessarily think so. I just think first of all, spirituality has been pulled out of our culture.
Agreed. Yeah, our priorities are way different. Way different compared to back then.
That's a component to this.
Yeah.
Not knowing who you are, how special you are, or where you came from. Not knowing your connection to God is a huge component.
Not knowing your purpose.
Not knowing your purpose. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the knowledge. That's the most devastating part of this. The fact that we don't have that spiritual connection to the earth or to God. That just seems like it's been sucked out, and it's almost like it's been systematically stripped out of just piece by piece. You go back to the 1660s and the British Royal Society was founded, and they got together and they decided they were going to take religion and spirituality out of science. They said that, we're going to turn the seance essentially into science.
Mm-hmm.
So they turned alchemy, herb healing, anything natural or holistic. They kind of just started to strip that out, and they replaced it with Darwin, essentially. And by the time you get to the late 1800s, you have Huxley, who was called Darwin's bulldog, lecturing. He was an outspoken voice for Darwin. He's a part of this Royal Society thing, and they kind of let that argument win, like to the point where now the states have adopted evolution.
Yeah.
So now they're just pumping it through the school system to everyone.
Yep.
But that used to not be like that.
Yeah.
Just this one theory that some elite people decided that they were going to push this, and over time it just took over. It got once it got in state hands and the government started using it, it was over.
Yeah, I agree. Not only that, they're actually looking like they were looking at like the long ball, like the long ball game of it.
Mm-hmm.
Wearing it out.
Yeah.
Yep, man. Oh, man, good stuff, brother. I got to have you back on for a round 2 for sure, man. We're definitely get into more like that little people in Tennessee and all that stuff, man.
Yeah. If you want to do a show, we'll talk about it. But I'd be down. I need an excuse to go through that stuff anyway. So.
All right, cool, man. Yeah, we'll definitely wrap a little more on that. As far as that, man, we're coming up on that hour and a half. Do you have anything? Any last words? Any last comments? You want to end on?
No. Thanks for having me on. it's been great having a chance to meet you and having this conversation. You know, we share a lot of similar interests, and I think we have a very
Yeah,
similar worldview. So
for sure, man. Yeah.
I'm
Well, hey, man.
always happy to meet other people who I can kind of see eye to eye with. Always.
100%, man. Only that we're only like 30 minutes away from each other, so we got to hang out sometime, do something,
Yeah.
man. For sure,
Cool.
man.
Yeah, I didn't know you were in Murfreesboro, man. That is
Yeah,
super close.
yeah, that's cool stuff, dude. Other
Yeah.
than that, where can people find you at? But yeah, if they need to get a hold of you, where can people listen to your podcast? All that stuff. Go ahead and throw it out there.
Yeah. Tim Constantine. My show is called Six Sensory Podcast. I don't use the number six. I spell it out. So Six Sensory Podcast on Instagram. If you want to get in touch with me, feel free to shoot me a message. If you want to listen to my show, it's Six Sensory Podcast on Spotify, Apple, YouTube.
Right, awesome, man. All right, brother. Like I said, yeah, I will get all your information and I'll plug it in the show notes and everything. And then don't go away. We'll chit chat a little more. And yeah, that's all I got, man. Hey, man, I appreciate you, coming out here. Basically just giving up your time just to hang out, man.
No, thanks for having me. We'll do it again, man. I look forward to it.
For sure, man. I appreciate you. All right, man. All right, Tim. Appreciate you, dude. Like I said, you have a cool last name, bro. Constantine. So
Thanks.
cool. Right on, man. All right. All right, guys. Hey, guys, thanks for tuning in. Hope you guys got a lot of nuggets. I know I did. I know I'm gonna be going into a lot of rabbit holes for sure. Definitely be going over some of the books of the Bible again, and I'm definitely gonna be checking out the habitats of dragons and stuff like that. So for sure. Yeah, if you guys got any questions, you guys got any prayer requests, you guys got any experiences or anything like that, just go ahead and shoot me an email, cryptidwarfare@gmail.com, or hit me up on Instagram as Cryptid Warfare. And like I said, I will have a Tim Constantine's plugins and everything like that in the show notes. You guys need to get a hold of them. Yeah, I'll have all that in the show notes. So, all right, hope you guys have a blessed week. And remember, we're not just wrestling against flesh and blood, but against principalities and rulers of this age. So, guys, keep your head up. Just remember, Jesus wins. So, all right, we are out.